It's cold, bitterly cold tonight, but I still draw the curtains and open the windows wide. There's a stench in the room, deep and damp and sickly sweet, that I can't ever seem to be rid of it. Besides that, the fumes from the linseed oil made my head spin. Like every night, I measure out my paints, arranging the small dabs of color on my palette from lightest to darkest. Titanium white and cadmium yellow to corpse brown and lamp black. I wet my brush with oil and gently start mixing the pigments. It feels just a little bit like magic, watching them swirl and mix, forming new colors from old. Let's paint her hair. I blend a dark, deep red on my palette as I envision her hair in my mind's eye. Marie rarely ever bound her locks in fashionable plaits or ringlets, not even on our wedding day. I remember how her glossy black waves almost shimmered beneath her veil. The color on my palette is as dull as mud. I sigh and blend it into the background instead. I apply my paint with a generous dab of oil, but it seems I didn't have to. The canvas is still wet from last night and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course. But lately, these nightly hours are the only time I find myself able to lift my brush. I stop every few strokes. Spirits, it hurts. I had joked that the pain that forced me away from the tailor shop meant that I could finally return to my paintings, at the very least. I was never any good at humor. Marie had sensed my worries, consoled me sweetly, in her voice that could charm stone to life. "Oh, Sam, don't worry. I have roles lined up for months. Go ahead and paint. We can still live comfortably." It hurt. A small part of it did. Beyond the physical, beyond the ailments, to seek her permission. To be unable to care for my darling the way I had when we were young, brimming with talent, but crushingly unknown. Well, she had been. I was, and still am, nothing. But perhaps, finally, it would now be my turn to bring my vision to the world. If only it didn't hurt so damn much. Time passes, and I still don't manage more than a few strokes, a small patch of dark over an already wet canvas. Or perhaps time hasn't passed at all. The broken clock on the wall would suggest as much. Perhaps the seconds have lain still, the world outside unchanging, and I, the only thing that moves. Have I moved? Is repeating the same brushstrokes like a clockwork doll movement? I shiver and sigh. Perhaps sleep would be a better endeavor. Perhaps the next night will meet more success. I stand, setting aside my paints and palettes, and slowly move to shut the windows. I stop. There, out in the front garden, barely lit by a street lamp, stands a figure that can only be Marie. She bids goodbye to another figure, tall and broad-shouldered, and then she laughs, a beautiful laugh, a heartfelt laugh, and embraces him before he makes his reluctant exit on a carriage stopped by a gate. For a moment, I don't know what to think. A friend, a co-star, perhaps that amiable tenor she mentioned every now and then. I didn't see his face, but Marie's social circle had always eclipsed my own. It must be. But why would he come to our home? Why would she laugh that way? In the garden, in the midst of walking to the front door, humming to herself, Marie suddenly looks up. For a moment, her eyes go wide, and she blinks, as if shaking herself from a daze. I instinctively step back from the windows. Perhaps it's guilt that makes me do so. Marie is finally home, and oh, I've missed her so. How could the first thing I think upon seeing my darling be the worst thoughts my mind could conjure? For the first time in many, many nights, I feel just well enough to leave the studio. I'll prepare Marie a pot of her favorite chamomile tea. I'll listen as she tells me of the nights, the theater, the 1,000 small anecdotes she never runs out of. And maybe, just maybe, ask her again to sit for a portrait for me. Like she used to. The house feels larger than it used to. Perhaps I was shut in the studio too long. Still, how could I so quickly become a stranger to my own home? The memories are fuzzy. The years blur together like a wash of oil colors. My mother and I, carrying our sparse luggage, stepping inside for the first time. My stepfather, laughing, his elbows on the breakfast table, chattering over something he'd read in the paper. Then silent hallways and empty rooms. And then myself welcoming my new bride to these solitary halls, hanging our newly taken portraits above the mantel. The walls are barren now. I feel the walls in the dark, leaving sticky trails of paint behind, tracing the places where I used to hang. I think the problem in this relationship is that we are too dependent on our wife. Presumably because we are not making any money and we're trying to fill the gap by painting. There could also be some neediness or clinginess on our end. Maybe even a little bit of infidelity. If the thoughts that we were having earlier when we saw her with that man are actually rooted in the right place. With all this in mind, I think we'll focus more on the paintings. The paintings I'd framed, the seaside landscape I painted on our honeymoon, the watercolor sketch of Marie that couldn't hope to capture the sheen of her hair, the still life of candles and flowers that had wilted because I took so long to finish. Even the painting of roses in a vase, the first gift I had ever given her. I wanted to bring you some flowers, but I was afraid they would wilt before I saw you next. You painted them. Oh, they're beautiful, Sam. The naked walls stare blankly at me. Confused, but with nowhere to go, I continue through the house. As I walk, I pass the furniture my stepfather left me. The shelves and tables that always seemed so large and grand as a boy, now missing or mantled in thick white linen. They remind me of corpses on a hospital table, lying dead still, covered in sheets. Marie? I try to call out, but phlegm blocks my throat. I cough, long and drawn and wet, and then once more attempt to voice her name. Marie? It slicks off my tongue like a serpent uncoiling. I had always loved her name, so tender and sweet, free of harsh syllables. Marie. It was a name like an impressionist fleur, painted in soft strokes with a fine oil brush. It was the greatest joy in the world to join my name to hers. Silence fills the halls, a long, drawn-out silence, a held breath. Finally, my darling answers. Sam? Is this a dream? good dream, darling. I don't know. It feels like a nightmare. An awful, wretched nightmare. I limp towards the sound of her voice, so musical, so lovely, even at the brink of tears. Don't cry, darling, I want to say, but thick, syrupy liquid fills my throat. No matter what troubles you, I am here. She stands at the edge of the staircase, shaking, a candlestick in hand. The steps are sticky and wet. I inch carefully, practically at a crawl, not to slip. My darling lifts the candle as I approach. In the dark of the house, its flickering flame almost blinds me. I don't see the expression on her face as she screams. Marie? Where are you, my darling? Every word feels like a dagger puncturing my throat. I limp down each hall, leaving a trail of steps that feel damp and heavy, slick and wet. I try the door to our bedroom. No, Marie's room. I had started sleeping in the spare one when my coughing fits would wake her in the night. It was cold, so cold, alone. But my darling needed her rest. The knob is slick and hard to twist, my hands slipping on the brass. Finally, I managed to push the door open. Though it's completely dark when I peer inside, I know it is empty. No warmth, no flesh, no sound of sweet breath within. I continue down the hall. I trudge, my steps heavy and wet, trying not to slip over the thick, slick surface. Marie, what's wrong, darling? Please come out. I don't understand. The dining room is empty. Truly empty. The shelves where the china and silverware were once neatly stacked now gape, hollow. The walnut table is covered in a thick white sheet. The matching set of chairs removed. I rest against the blanketed table. My hand leaves a ruddy smear against the sheet. It must be more paint, though it's hard to make out in the dark. I'd needed spectacles for quite some time, but Marie had never liked the bookish type. I continue on through the familiar yet unfamiliar house, my steps strained and slow, my breaths short, sticky, wet. Marie, where are you? Oh, Marie, it hurts. Won't you come to me? I hear the the front door slammed shut. It must be freezing cold out. Why has she gone to the garden? I tread to the sound with new urgency, uncaring of the sticky wet floors, forgetting for just a moment the pain that snaps and burns through my flesh. I reach for the oily, damp knob. Don't, Sam. Please. Her voice rings from behind the door. I don't understand, darling. Have I done something to upset you? Her sobs echo loudly. I never thought an ugly sound could come from my darling's lips. But her words. I love you, Sam. I always will. But I can't bear to see you like this. Please, I beg of you, return to where you came. You can't be here. I've moved on now. What? Return where? Dearest, you aren't making any sense. Moved on? I'm your husband, Marie. What on earth is there to move on from? Please remember, Sam. You were ill. You were ill for a long, long time, and you never recovered. I know I'm unwell, Marie, but you said we would still... Are you leaving me? Because I can't care for you anymore? Is that it? You left me. You're dead, Sam. You've been dead for more than a year. If this is a joke, darling, it's a cruel one. Do you want me dead? Is that it? Am I better off dead to you? My darling does nothing but sob behind the door. How quickly I regret my words. Oh, if only I could see her face, look into her eyes, reassure her, and see that she loves me still. I twist the knob with slick, oily hands. No, don't come out, please. On the other end, with a sharp gasp, my darling grasped the knob closed, pushing the weight of her small frame against the weathered wood. Don't come out. Do we force the door open or let her go? I think us being dead makes more sense than her having pushed us away, given everything that's happening with the house, our inability to paint, speak, the trouble we're having walking around, everything that was once in our home being retired, the way we reminisce about memories. I think we really are dead. So, I think the better thing to do is to let her go. Let's see what happens. my hand slicking off its oily surface. Forgive me, Marie. I can see that you don't want to speak to me right now. But whatever you do, whatever this is about, I'll be waiting in the studio. I leave the door. I leave my darling alone, sobbing in the garden. It's dark, so very dark, but dawn will soon paint that dim black sky. I retrace my slick, wet footsteps through the hall, up the staircase, one trudging, damp step at a time. Spirits hurts. It burns. I feel no breath in my lungs. My chest could be a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, spilling with hot, sickly liquid. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. I stagger into a tall, sheet-covered object, the linen sliding off with the grasp of my clumsy, slick fingers. It's Marie's floor-length mirror. No. Oh no. No, 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 no. I'm in the studio, a dark, dim studio, as empty as it is every night. The curtains are shut, the lamps are unlit. My palette is a mess of murky colors, rust reds, corpse browns. A musky, sickly, sweetly rotting stench fills the room. I don't know why the smell of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. The handle of the door turns behind me. Slowly, it creaks open, and a figure steps inside. It's me. He limps more than he steps in crooked motions against the floor, dragging his body along like a wet, wide brush as swaths of red pool at his feet. I watch him pull himself before the canvas. Samuel. He speaks in my mother's voice, a tone that could swell with warmth or derision, command or dependency, pride or disappointment, in a moment's notice. Please, give up your suffering. Give up this. Come back to the earth with me. My hands are too slick to hold my brush. I stab it into my flesh and fix it between my bones, and then dip the bristles into his blood. Sammy. He speaks in my stepfather's voice, but without laughter or joy. In the same cadence, I imagined him taking his last breath, don't suffer anymore, Sam. You are nothing already. Forget your pain. Return to the void with us. My brush is drying. I plunge it into his chest, wet it with his oily breath. Sam. He speaks with my voice, hoarse and raspy and tired. So very, very tired. This won't make you worthy of love. Not the world's, not Marie's, not your friends, or peers, or critics. Come back to our grave, end our suffering. You know, I don't do this for love. I clean my brush with the paint thinner, knocking over the jar as it spills across the drawer and onto the wet, soaken floor. I dry the bristles on my worn, rotting shirt, then soak it in the thick, white mucus of his tears. My words are only partially true, just as his words are not fully wrong. Neither my rotting corpse nor the memory of what once was Sam will gain a thing from this toil. I paint the hours away, or perhaps take no time at all. The clock on the wall never turns its hands, suggesting that the world lies still. The seconds never pass, and I am the only thing that moves within it. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Heavy, syrupy tears flood my vision, fill my throat, my chest, choking me. Every movement of my hands leaves cracks in what's left of my brittle bones. He stares at me all the while, silent, still, like a mirror. If I loved him, I would stop. I would crawl to my grave like he wishes. But I love this more than I love myself. I birth him from within me. As I create, so too am I born. And he and I are beautiful. So this is the second ending. We finished the portrait, but we instead inclined to paint ourselves